Over to you, Frank.
Okay. Are you going to spotlight me? If not, let's don't worry about it. Okay. Okay. Oh, there you go. Okay. So I really appreciate this opportunity to repeat for you today a pitch I recently made to the University of the Third Age in Montreal, Canada. It's called the McGill Community for Lifelong Learning. Oh, and I have to click OK. The pitch I was making, and which I've been making at other organizations over the years, is that they should be promoting Google Slides to members who want to prepare slideshows for study group presentations and for weekly lectures, which some organizations have. Now, my interest in this subject is driven by my strong preference for peer learning, participant presentation learning, the model I've used for virtually all 24 of the study groups that I've designed and co-moderated since I retired from public service and got involved in later life learning. That was some 12 years ago. Now, for my own presentations and lectures, I originally relied on Microsoft PowerPoint. Why? Well, it was because what I had used I was in the workforce, and because I had actually taught the app professionally for a short while. However, 10 years ago, when I was participating in a U3A here in Toronto, Canada, I was asked to help colleagues with low computer literacy, like very low at that time, learn how to do slideshows. And I quickly realized the PowerPoint wasn't going to work for them because of its complexity. So I switched to Google Slides, or PowerPoint Lite, as I like to call it. Just one sec. Now, here's what I think are Google Slides' main advantages over PowerPoint as a presentation app for later life learners. At the top of the list is Google Slides' relative simplicity, followed by its good fit between with what later life learner presenters need when to produce slideshows. If someone uses Google Slides in a later life learning organization, they're not going to have to give up anything in terms of functionality, or virtually nothing, if they choose slides over PowerPoint. Then there's the zero risk of losing data if you use Google Slides, since all your work is automatically saved and easily retrieved. Last but not least, Google Slides beats PowerPoint hands down when it comes to enabling us to work together on slideshows and to learn and teach each other the software. Now, I should mention that I'm not going to say anything today about Keynote, Apple's slideshow app, because I don't think it's widely used, and my own experience with it has been limited to my wife's iPad. And by the way, I'm not going to say anything about, I think it's called Impress, which is which one of our participants uses today. I wasn't even aware of it. Now let's look at Google Slides simplicity. One thing that makes this app simple is that you don't have to go looking for it if you're a regular user of Google Search, which I believe is generally the case for almost all later life learners. I could be wrong, of course. But if you do use Google for searching, Google Slides is only 2 clicks away from the search page. You just click on the 9 dots in the top right of the screen, and then on the Google Drive icon. Now, what's this Google Drive? Oh, well, it's just Google's equivalent to Microsoft Office. You see, Drive offers you not only Google Slides, but also Google Docs and Google Sheets, the Google equivalents to Word and Excel. Now, when Drive comes up on your screen, you'll see a list of the slideshows and other Drive files that you've created previously. They will be listed in the order that Drive thinks you want to see them, based on how you've been, the ones you've been using recently or that you open frequently. Now, if you've only prepared a few slideshows, that's no problem. But after a while, if you're like me and have in my case, several years worth of files, the list will look like this. So how are you going to find that file you want? First of all, you can click on Recent on the left. This lists what you've been most recently working on. And if you have favorite files, you can dub them stars and click here, then they will be listed there. And if it's a slideshow or other file that you've deleted in the last 30 days, click on Trash and it'll be there. But if you can't find what you're looking for, Google Slide Search will come up. Google Drive Search will come up. It'll find it for sure. So it's a very user-friendly interface in terms of managing files. Just a sec. Now, before we move on, I want you to note that icon on the left there that lists your shared with me list. And this is very important in terms of Google Slides' advantage in facilitating collaboration. We'll be talking about that in a few minutes. But let's forget about that now and assume you're new to Google Slides and just want to create a slideshow. How do you do that? And by the way, all you PowerPoint users who are in the vast majority of that, so much as this is going to be similar to, but simpler to PowerPoint. So please don't get bored though. I think because I think I have some PowerPoint tips for you I can mention as we go along. Any event, you click on New, and then you select a Google Slides. And this is what your screen is going to look like. Now, let me give you a quick tour of this interface. Most of the work you're going to do in producing this slideshow will be done here in this area, where you'll insert, edit, and formats text, images, and videos on a given slide. Now, this column on the right here, it offers some ways to jazz up the look of your slideshow with what slides call themes. And this one here, this column, is where you add, delete, and reposition slides within a show. This is where your speaker notes go. And if you use speaker notes, I want to persuade you and convert you to placing them inside your slideshow, PowerPoint or Google Slides, for some reasons I think you will find persuasive. And for everything else you want to do, there at the top, there's the Google Slides menu and toolbar right there at the top of the screen. Now, interestingly, and let's just compare that with what we have in PowerPoint. And the menu and the toolbar, by the way, the toolbar, PowerPoint now calls them ribbons. But let's compare this interface and what a presenter has to deal with if they in PowerPoint. Not only are there more than a dozen toolbars or ribbons, each of these is loaded with buttons or icons, as they're called. And any button you click on can bring up many more choices, over 100 if you want to just insert a shape. So you can see why I call PowerPoint a sledgehammer to kill a fly. Certainly it is compared to what Google has. It is simplified its slideshow app tremendously compared to PowerPoint. Yes, there's both a menu and a toolbar at the top in both apps, but you don't need the menu in Google Slides generally. So you can hide it and do almost everything you want via that toolbar. That's the toolbar there. You rarely have to use this, and you can just hide it and rely mainly on the toolbar, plus some keyboard shortcuts, which, by the way, are very similar or even the same as in PowerPoint. But let's just take a quick look through look at what you can do with the Google Slides toolbar. And again, there are not going to be any surprises here for if you used either Slides or PowerPoint. these are kind of standard functionalities. For example, if you want to add a slide, oh, sure, you could go to the menu and click on insert and insert a slide. But here you just click on the plus sign. Or if you want to select a particular layout, for example, have an image or text, don't click on the plus sign, click on that little down thing there, and that will give you the choice and save you a click or two. Oh, and yeah. And then, of course, do, undo. I mean, I've never used these either in PowerPoint. I use the keyboard shortcuts for that. Printing, yes, very, very straightforward. Here's something I really want to mention because I'm not sure everyone uses it, and it is if you have, oh, I don't know, a text box. You have two text boxes. One of them has the format, has the font size you want and the font, but the other doesn't. Oh, you can simply click on that first text box, click on that little painter there, paint roller, and then click on the other one, and it will transfer or copy that format to that other object. You can zoom in and out to see things better. If you're going to do a text box, oh, sure, you can go to the menu, insert text box. Oh, it's right there. And an image. By the way, I almost never use this. I'm collecting images from the web, and I copy and paste them in. So I myself actually don't use that. Shapes, as you will see, I'm using one right now. That's a shape, that little arrow with the explanation there. You may or may not use them, but I'm a heavy user. And sometimes I need a line. The background color I might change, unlikely, because no, I want a consistent theme. The layout, you have a layout in front of you, which is for text. Oh, no, but you want a video, so you can change that on the fly. The theme, I would never do it this way, so you can kind of ignore that. Transitioning, I use animation, but it's within slides. I don't, and that's because, particularly if you're presenting, I don't do it between slides, and even in slide, I make it happen immediately, because in a Zoom meeting in the web, things can be moved slower than what they would be in person. Now, continuing this theme of simplicity, again, I have to confess now, I claim the Google Slides has only one toolbar, but I was fibbing a little bit. You see, when you select a particular kind of object, let's say a text box or an image or a shape, the buttons displayed on the toolbar change. And the ones that now show are those relevant to the task at hand. But just to end this argument in favor of simplicity, I hope I've persuaded you that Google Slides has a major advantage over PowerPoint in terms of simplicity versus complexity. So while I do continue to use PowerPoint from time to time, I'm not really that much of a fan. Let's move on now to another main advantage of Google Slides over PowerPoint, and that is its functionality. That is, it has almost all the tools for creating slideshows that a later life learner is going to want to use. Yeah. So it offers all the tools that a later life learner is likely to use. Here you see half of them. Now, there are four I've highlighted here, which I kept putting down the menu at the top. You will have to use the menu for these. Version history, I'll explain that. Print preview, inserting a video, inserting animation, even on they do require using that menu. But now here are the other features that are available, and So just to sum up, it's loaded with tools. And yes, there are a couple of PowerPoint features I'd like to see in Google Slides, but there are many, many more slides features I'd like to see in Microsoft PowerPoint, which is why I do continue to use it occasionally, PowerPoint. Now, let's move on. I do want to mention Google Slides automatic saving features. And trust me, this can be a real time saver and lifesaver for sure. Not only is every change you make as you develop your slideshow saved automatically to the internet, with the slides feature called version history, which you see there on the right, you can review one by one all the changes you've made in your Google slideshow since you started it. Plus, you can revert to one of those previous versions or just copy and paste it back a particular slide from a previous version that you deleted along the way, which I myself often do. I have a slide, oh, I'm not going to use that. Well, and I deleted a couple of days later. God, I wish I had that slide. That is possible, easily possible in Google Slides. Would be a real challenge in PowerPoint. And this was actually a functionality I really missed. I recently used PowerPoint to create a lecture on Egyptian hieroglyphs. And at the end of every day I was working on, I had to manually save the file, each with a different file name, in order to come anywhere close that what would have been possible had I used Google Slides. Yes, so this is this version history thing. Not only, I just want to explain this. Not only is every change you make as you develop your slideshow, it's automatically saved. With this version history, as you can see there on the right, you can review one by one all the changes you made in the show since you started it. It could have been years, by the way. Plus, you can revert to any one of those previous versions or just copy and paste back a particular slide, as I explained before. So now, let's look at how Google Slides facilitates collaboration. Google Slides enables colleagues to view and work on slideshows together in real time. Remember that unlike PowerPoint, there's only one slideshow file showing in Google Slides. And so there's no need to be sending files back and forth by email. And here's what, and one of the people who have participated in our pre-meeting survey, here's what he said, or she said: big win for me is having a single copy of the slide deck. No more emailing around files. Current version is simply and always online. Why do people use Microsoft Office? I really don't get it. So it isn't just Frank Nicholson who's singing slides advantages today. Now, I should say, and this is a tremendous advantage. When I started training Toronto colleagues on Google Slides 10 years ago, I hadn't yet stumbled onto Zoom. And so I had to use a telephone to meet with the person I was training. And this worked, though, because we were both able to look at the same slideshow file at the same time with our web browsers. Of course, Zoom has now enhanced the information exchange significantly by letting a trainer see the puzzled or excited look on a face of the trainee when something's being explained. But let me show you now the steps involved in this sharing.
Frank, we do have a raised hand. I don't know if you want to accept interruptions during your talk.
I would rather wait until the end if it's okay, but please, John, keep your hand up there. Yes, excellent. Let me show you about this sharing. And by the way, when we move into discussion, there may be things I've said people disagree with. I can be all based. I'm not the almighty hoobah or expert on these two apps, but I know we're going to have some good discussion. But let me show you about this sharing. To do that, you click on this button. It's always there on the screen. You click on that button, and this dialog box comes up, and you insert the collaborator's email address. You then decide on the powers you want your colleague to have. It could be just to be able to view the show, or to just insert comments, or to actually edit or change it. Depends on the situation, but you have those options. Then, having done that, you click on Submit. And your colleague will now see that slideshow listed in their Drive account. If they click on, there's a Share with Me button, which I mentioned previously. Now, the training I did, I'm trying to persuade the U3A in Montreal to offer training on Google Slides, so more people will be prepared to do presentations. And in fact, I'm going to be leading a workshop in August on this, or it's July actually. Now, the training I did 10 years ago, I had to develop a lot of materials, such as you see here. These are all on the left. These are training demos, and on the right, I had people do exercises, because you don't really master something until you actually have to do it. But I doubt that this would be necessary today, because people, since the arrival of Zoom and the arrival of younger and more computer illiterate retirees, the level of computer illiteracy is much higher now than it was then. By the way, while we're looking at this, I want you to note the icon with the two heads. This indicates that the slideshow or other file has been shared with one or more colleagues. Now, in addition to training colleagues on Google Slides, as a course moderator, leader, or facilitator, I've also used the app to prepare slideshows for participants who want to do a presentation, but don't want to get into the technology. Here's the most recent example. It was a presentation on Gustave Flaubert for a French history class. I just finished co-tutoring, co-moderating at the University of the Third Age in Cambridge, England. Now, as soon as my colleague, Sue Smith, told me the main topic she would be covered, I created a title slide for each of these topics and put the topic at the top. And then I inserted the text and images she wanted on each of these slides. And of course, then I made corrections, moved slides around and so on, corrected things as we went along. Now, you're probably wondering, how would I have had the time for that? That's what Google Slides allow us to do. Because we're not sending files back and forth. No, I get an urgent email. Frank, I can't figure this out, and my presentation is tomorrow. No problem. 5 minutes. I click on. I go in. I could insert a note explaining how to do it, but given the shortness of time, I probably just fix it for him or her, and that is certainly not possible in PowerPoint, trust me. But let's wind up now. I've covered what I had said. I regard as the main advantages of the main 5 advantages of Google Slides over PowerPoint. But there are some other advantages, and I just want to quickly go through them. First of all, the cost. Google Slides is free, whereas for us in Canada, it's $80 a year for PowerPoint. A subscription of $365. It's operating system neutral in the sense it works the same, at least basically the same, on both Apple and Windows devices. It's cloud-based, so the slideshows you create can be accessed from any device with an internet connection. Compatibility is important. Slideshows can be converted from Google Slides to PowerPoint and vice versa. So that is built into Google Slides. And finally, And last but not least, if someone learns Google Slides and they decide, oh, I want to graduate, I want to move up and get into training, I want to get into PowerPoint. The concept underlying both apps is the same, and many of the I mentioned keyboard shortcuts are the same, are very similar. So if you actually think people should get into PowerPoint, getting them to first learn Google Slides, I think you'll be impressed. So yeah, I took that out. Just a minute. This was for the people in Montreal. Ignore that. If anyone has any questions or disagree with anything I said, please speak up. And that's it. Okay. Oh, and you need to remove my spotlight, okay?
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Frank. So any questions, just put your hands up. I know we had a question during the talk. John.
Which has been answered.
Oh, right. Okay.
Question was going to be a whole load of presentations on PowerPoint. Can I convert them to this Google system?
Well, if I could clarify, the conversion is not perfect. It's 90%, 95% okay, but you may have to go in and do a little fiddling on text size and so on. So I don't want to, but the conversion is there both ways, okay?
Thank you.
I think John had a question there.
Frank, it really wasn't so much a question. Thank you very much for that. In a sense, it's slightly more fundamental than Microsoft PowerPoint versus Google Slides and learning one or the other. It's about simple presentation training. Both of these systems make it far too easy for people to knock together presentations without any real thought for the actual structure and concept of the presentation itself. I mean, it's not about training in PowerPoint or Google Slides. It's about, as I say, training in how to do presentations. The number of times I see people doing presentations where they put an image on the screen and instead of it using the whole screen, they have it parked in one corner, and then they fill the other parts of the presentation with vast quantities of words, which they then subsequently read out. I mean, this, if you like, is the fundamental of presentation, and you can be as bad in Google Slides as you can be in Microsoft PowerPoint with that approach. So that's where I would start. It's interesting because what you say about PowerPoint is probably correct, but as you and I have talked before, I've been using PowerPoint for 20, I don't know, since PowerPoint existed. And that was even before it was bought by Microsoft. And so I have used slides, but there are now things in Microsoft PowerPoint that I can't do without, in a sense.
Yeah.
They're specialist, but they are part of the business of me preparing a presentation. And all I would say on that is I have yet to find an example where I'm ever going to be collaborating with anybody else on a presentation.
Yeah.
I accept absolutely that it's good, and there are things in Google Docs, for instance, and in Google Sheets where being able to collaborate is actually worthwhile. I've yet to find that in Google Slides. As a pinch, you can do it in PowerPoint as well. I mean, all what you say about saving automatically, I use Microsoft 365 in my PowerPoint in that, and I have it always backed up to the web. Just as a practical point on PowerPoint, I mean, I never throw away a slide while I'm preparing a presentation. I put a black slide, and this goes back to the days of proper old-fashioned slide decks, where I was trained to put a blank slide at the front and a blank slide at the back, so that you knew exactly what was happening with the old slide projector. And I still do that. I put a black slide at the front of my PowerPoint presentation and a black slide at the end. And anything that I don't want as I'm putting it together, I just, in Slide Sorter, pull it straight to the end behind it.
Okay.
Doesn't affect my presentation. Anyway, that's just my 2 penny for the moment.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, that death by PowerPoint, that is people putting their script on the screen, it can work, but the key point I always try to make, remember, the slideshow is just a prop. The presentation is the information you're giving people. And by the way, you know, I have people in some of my groups, the transatlantic, who don't use a slideshow. And certainly whether that be in a virtual meeting or in-person meeting, absolutely. With respect to retaining slideshows, both PowerPoint or slides within a show that you're not sure you're going to use, but you don't want to delete them. You can in both, it's called hide slides in PowerPoint and skip slides in PowerPoint. So they're there. It's just that when you run the slideshow, they won't be seen. So, but I certainly agree with your philosophy, John. The important thing is the information you're going to be sharing and not all the whizzy stuff you can do. So there we go. So Ray, you had a thought, or you need to.
Okay, just unmuting. Yeah, it's to do with inserting video. What format video does it allow? And are the videos actually embedded in the presentation? And if you move it on a USB stick somewhere else, they go with it? Or do you have to have a complex attached file structure?
Okay, this is both a strength and potentially weakness of Google Slides. The only slides you can put in, to the best of my knowledge, are YouTube videos. And to actually be in, otherwise you're going to have to jump out of the slideshow and come back in terms of your sharing. However, keep in mind, pretty well any video you'd ever want to use is going to be on YouTube. I mean, even TED Talks, you know, they have their channel, and they do have a separate website. So I should make that clear. But the embedding, and that's why I recently used, used PowerPoint rather than Google Slides for this presentation on the decipherment of the Egyptian hieroglyphs. In that case, because I knew you could trim videos in PowerPoint, but I wasn't aware you can do it in Google Slides. So I went down the PowerPoint road. I then learned, though, that you can't trim. You can put in a video trim. Trim meaning you chop off some at the front or some at the back because you only want to show an excerpt. Yes, you can do that in PowerPoint, but not with slides on the web. No, you can only do it if you insert the MP4 file into that PPTX file. At that point, of course, the size of it explodes. And forget about trying to share it. At least that's been my experience. I believe it is possible. So embedding, I would take that to mean you actually put the full MP4 file into it, but it has this terrible effect of blowing up the size.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But yes, you can put the you can put a YouTube or any web video in with the URL. Yes, no problem. But you can't trim. You can't trim.
Okay, but you need internet access then when you present your show with the YouTube video link.
That is correct. But I mean, first of all, of course, we all got into Zoom, so we're all on the internet anyway. But even in a physical situation, my gosh, these days, any classroom would have internet.
Well, I have quite a few halls I go to that don't have internet access around here.
Is that so? I
Yes.
would say in Canada, I'm telling you these days, if you're meeting at a golf club or a country club or church, I mean, we can thank not the Lord, we can thank Zoom for that. The churches would have gone out of business during COVID if they hadn't got internet access. Trust me. And we have a colleague at MCL, at my Montreal colleague. He spent half his time on the later life learning, but the other half helping the minister do the Sunday and other services. So I am surprised, but if that is the case, yes, definitely. You'll need to bring, yeah, go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, sorry. I use videos and audios from time to time, and you can do it from a MP4 if you want to, but it needs to be stored on your Google Drive. So you can do non-YouTube videos and non-YouTube audios. It just needs to be on your Google Drive. And when you do an insert video, you can insert a YouTube video, or there's a tab there you can switch to and find a file on your Google Drive. And the other thing I was going to mention is, for non-internet use, if you use Google Chrome rather than Firefox, say, in Google Chrome, there's an option to go offline.
Yeah.
The process is, if you're sat at home preparing for your presentation, you hit the go offline button, and then you can take your laptop to the presentation office and use Google Chrome, do your presentation without the internet access on.
Yeah. Have you ever done that?
I always do that as a backup.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah,
Okay.
so but by
Great tip.
default, I use Firefox for various reasons, but then
Yeah.
I always fire up Chrome, go
Okay.
offline, so I've got a plan B in case internet access doesn't work.
Where's the go offline button?
It's on the file menu in Chrome only.
Oh, so is it an extension you have to load, or is it?
No, it's built in. It's built in.
Chrome is aware of this by default. There's no
Yeah.
plugins as such.
I was aware of it, but I've never used it. So that's a great contribution and tip. Thank you.
Okay.
So Tony, is it, or Tommy, I guess? Yeah. You have to unmute yourself, sir.
Yeah, good. It lets me unmute myself. Okay, I used PowerPoint a lot in the past, and I used equation editor to write equations in a format that is pretty close to LaTeX or TeX. Is something similar in Google Slides?
There is a limited number of equation symbols, so I would suggest probably you're best to stick with PowerPoint.
Yeah, thank you.
But I don't know the answer, but it goes with being simple. There are fewer choices, but there are the equation symbols available.
There's probably an add-in, Frank, for that in Google.
Probably, yeah. So
thank
Neil,
you.
I should explain that I did go through the questions and comments and input that people gave in our pre-meeting survey, and as soon as you guys run out of steam, I am going to raise them because I think they'll be useful to you. So Neil, what questions or thoughts do you have?
Yeah, well, it's just the thing about trimming, yeah, and Peter picked up a point about other videos in Drive that you can load, but I'm sure that I've trimmed YouTube videos in Google Slides using the options on the video. Yeah, if you look at the video play, you can pick start at this point, end at that point, and I've done loads of clips in my things. So.
I wish I'd spoken to you.
One of the reasons that I tended to use Google Slides is it's very good for clipping and playing around, but also there's some things that if you've taken something from YouTube, it needs modifying. And because either the sound isn't what it ought to be, or some of the pictures are not particularly good, and so on. And so, yeah, that's been useful where you've had to use an editor to actually clean it up. Then you put it on your Google Drive, and you just pick it up that way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I should. Yeah, I wish I had known what you know, because that's why I use PowerPoint. I wasn't aware that slides had that capability. One tip I might give, that if you're not into trimming or you can't, well, at least on YouTube, you have the option when you go to share. By default, of course, you'll start at the beginning of the video, but you can specify the minute and second you want to start at. And
Yeah.
So in
Oh,
effect,
exactly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do loads of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I often split videos up into small sections that relate to different parts of a presentation. So,
yeah, but this isn't trimming. It's not a
no. That's a separate issue.
I just want to stress, well, it would be true in PowerPoint, for example. You can't trim at least at this point, in PowerPoint, you cannot trim a internet video, but you can make the URL start at the minute and second you want it to start at. So in effect, yes, you can trim the front, but you have to trim the back by, stopping the video. So if that's helpful to anyone. Other discussion, I do want to share some of these tips, which I think will be helpful, that people asked about in the survey, and that I think will be helpful to PowerPoint users as well as Google Slides. But there may be other, Mr. Chair, I'm sure there are other, I've run off at the mouth here. What other comments or questions do people have for I? If not, should I move on, Peter? Yeah.
I was going to make some comments. Actually, I was just trying to make stuff, didn't interrupt anyone. As you know, I'm a very long-term user of Google Slides, Docs, Sheets, Drawings. The reason I moved to it was when I was working commercially, it was I worked for a company who weren't really anti-Microsoft, but they embraced all operating systems and types. So you'd have people in the team who are using Linux, people using Macs, people are using Windows, people are using their iPads, people who are probably still stuck on OS2 or Solaris or something like that. So actually, it just wasn't feasible to use a package like, Microsoft Office.
Yeah.
Of course, there's price. But the big reason, coming from a software background, is that there's always a single copy of the presentation that's online. I still get quite frustrated now when people start emailing around Microsoft Word documents or PowerPoints. People update them and add comments and email them back, and it drives me nuts. So what I do, I'll do today, with my talk. I will share my slides with comment rights only. So anyone in the group can add comments online to the single copy if there's corrections or any feedback to make. And then, next time I do a talk, I'll absorb those comments and update the slides. So as I say, I'm a long-time user. I get a bit frustrated with it from time to time, but it's definitely my go-to tool. So any other comments? There was some in the chat.
Oh.
There was a question, can I save slides as PDFs? And there's a couple of responses there. I think there's two ways. You can either print to PDF or you can just do an export to PDF.
Yes, absolutely. I was going to cover that in one of my tips. So.
And there's a comment here, can you translate presentations from PowerPoint to Google or vice versa? And the answer is
yes, as I indicated, the answer to that is yes.
Yep. And in fact, you can do that directly with Google Drive. You can force Google Drive to always save your Google Slides in PowerPoint format if you so want to.
I think John has
It was just a comment about PDFs. I mean, the value of converting your presentation to PDF is that it is usually much smaller. Okay, you might lose some interactivity and so on, but being able to move it around to other people as a simple document quite often makes sense. We share all our, in my group, we share all our presentations afterwards as a PDF. Just makes life a lot simpler.
Mm. Obviously,
Could I ask,
a link is smaller than a PDF.
Well, okay.
Sorry, Frank, I spoke over you.
no, I should have raised my hand. Go ahead. We have some further comments. Go ahead. Tommy, what's your
Yeah, I'm now introducing a pro board discussion forum to the science and technology group, and you can upload their files. Maximum size is 1 megabyte. Imagine 1 megabyte. That must be floppy disk size. And if you translate a PowerPoint into PDF, usually your size is much, much, much smaller, as John already mentioned.
Absolutely. By the way, Tommy, your group, I wanted to speak to someone about that. I'm sorry, is your group part of U3A communities or a local group, Tommy?
No, it is not part of U3A community. Okay. It is part of IGO, interest groups online.
Oh, yes. No, I'm an IGO member myself, but I'll tell you what, I'm going to shut up. John, what did...
It's just a very quick one. When I share my PowerPoint presentations on PDF, it doesn't share the speaker's notes. Is there a way of sharing the speaker's notes?
Absolutely. That's the main gospel I wanted to bring today. The main tip. I cannot understand. I mean, if you don't use speaker notes, no problem. But if you have speaker notes, whether you're using PowerPoint or Google Slides, for God's sake, and whether you're doing online presentations or in person, if you save them, I mean, I could demo this, but trust me, when you, maybe I could, if you want to print something off with the speaker notes, you don't click on print. You click on, I think it's print preview. Just a minute. I tell you what, this is important. So I'm going to share this and just a minute. Let me find this. Hold on.
John has something to say.
Okay, go ahead, John.
You can do the same in PowerPoint. When you save a presentation in PowerPoint as a PDF, it puts a little link on the edge of the PDF page for that slide. You click on that and you can see the speaker notes. So it does work in PowerPoint.
Yeah, it does in both. But I know PowerPoint users, they print it off separately
but you can
in Word or something, you know, it's nuts. If you're going to use speaker notes, what are the advantages of putting them in that notes pane at the bottom? First of all, when you're editing, when you're creating it, if you change the what you're going to say, you probably want to change the slide that's related to it, and vice versa, right? But if you have them, PowerPoint or Google Slides, if you're putting them down in that notes, you can change them together. But the other payoff is printing off, if you want to share your presentation with others via the internet, this is the second one. Just as John said, you save it as a PDF. It'll be much smaller than the PTX, and you send it by email, or you can post it and all that. But the third advantage is, okay, you're not going to do an online presentation. No, you're going to do it the old-fashioned way in person, and you're going to have paper. If you save it as if you save it as a PDF and you print it off on paper, and I'm sure many of you know this, but there are many people who don't, you will have a miniature of the slide at the top, and you will have the related speaker notes on that page. So this business of shuffling paper and making them, I suspect no one here is not using that capability, and it's PowerPoint or Google Slides is irrelevant. They're both the same. They're both the same, provided you put your speaker notes in the PPTX file or in the Google Slides file. So I did want to make that pitch to them. I kind of got carried away there. Maybe we shouldn't be recording this. What do you think, Peter? Does anyone disagree that if you have speaker notes, it's good to put them in your slideshow? Here, I'm preaching to the converted.
I'm always using speaker notes. I write the speaker notes first and then put the slides on afterwards quite often.
Well, either, but it's an interview. But I'm telling you, there are people that still do it. They put the notes in a Word document or something, and then they have to number the notes by the slide number manually. But I should have really raised that today. I'm sure everyone's on top of that one. But I do have another tip that I think may be useful, and that it has to do with presenter view. Does anyone who raise your hand if you use presenter view, either PowerPoint or, okay. And do you use it online or just in an in-person one?
So when I use it, I use LibreOffice. I don't use the Microsoft software. Sorry, I use LibreOffice. The presenter view may be different from PowerPoint. Yeah. And typically it's with two displays, one of which is the projector. So I'm looking at the laptop with the notes and the next slide that's coming along, while the current slide I'm talking to is going via the projector. Now,
exactly. My
question would be is, can you do the same thing with Google Slides?
Absolutely, or with PowerPoint. It's actually, and I'm forced to admit this, it's simpler with PowerPoint at this time. So just so everyone knows what we're talking about, I might even be able, of course, now I've closed it. Presenter view is particularly useful in a Zoom meeting. Why? What it means is you have your slides on the left of the screen, and that's what I did today, a miniature. On the right are the related speaker notes. Now think of the advantages there. If you printed them off and you're in a Zoom meeting, you're shuffling the papers, you're having to look down, or even if, some people have two monitors, you're having to look and so on and so on. I hope, and you can rate me on this, I tried to keep eye contact today, but I wasn't looking at you. I was looking at my speaker notes. So I don't know if I pulled it off or not, but you can see the advantage in a Zoom meeting of presenter view. In PowerPoint, it's a snap. You share your screen with I'm trying to remember how this, it's a little tricky, but it's basically about 3 clicks. You can have everyone in the Zoom meeting just seeing your slideshow while you have your slideshow and your speaker notes. And it's about 3 clicks. Unfortunately, in Google Slides, at least I understand it, the way I had to do it today, I didn't share my slideshow that you were looking at. No, I shared my speaker notes, but there is a option, it's under advanced, when you go to share something, portion of screen. That's what I did. And you'll come up, you'll have a little green or orange rectangle. You may have to fiddle with it, but it simply covers that slide miniature in your slideshow. That guarantees that's how it worked today. You only saw my slides. But what I saw on the screen was the slide, and including the next slide, and I had my speaker notes on the side, right? So yeah, but it's trickier. I mean, it's difficult for me to demo now, but I might be able to do a little quick video explaining both of them. But those who raised their hand who said they use presenter view, do you use it in just in person? Raise your hand if you use it in Zoom meetings. Ah, okay. So I'm preaching to the converted, at least some here, and I apologize for that. But keep in mind, you know, now you may want to yourself spread that gospel to others. I think it does make for better presentations. Okay, Ray, you want to agree, disagree?
Yeah, it's just an observation. I think because you chose a small area of your screen, you know, cut it out and projected that to us, it created a lower quality image, because on my screen I was having trouble reading what was on the text. Whereas I think if you could project the full size screen of the source, then you might get a much better quality image on the receiving end.
Probably. If it was fuzzy for others, raise your hands. Okay. I mean, it is an issue, you know, particularly for videos, by the way. But I appreciate that feedback. Well, so maybe I should have saved it as a PowerPoint, and because with presenter review with PowerPoint, you're not sharing, you're sharing your whole screen. But
yeah, I've got the advantage, I must admit, at the moment I've got 3 screens here.
Oh, come on.
And I tend to do my main presentation on the small 12 by, whatever it is, 1280 by 1024 screen for people to see. And I've got everything else going on here. But in sense, I think you could do something similar. You could, if you got a big wide screen in front of you.
Well, it's no.
Yeah, you could actually make the you should be
Oh,
able
no,
to
no,
do
no. It's very important, and this is important. By default, that slide miniature is about that big.
yeah.
But you can you drag it. I should have mentioned this. Maybe I'll do it in my little video. You drag the panel separator so that the miniature is occupying half of the screen, is twice as big.
Yeah.
But you know, I don't know. It's certainly an issue and something worth thinking about as a limitation.
Yeah, it's just an observation. The images were a bit soft and made them difficult to read any detail.
I see. Yeah. Well, to be fair, even I found it difficult to read.
Oh, okay. Right.
Because because the font, if you're showing a whole Google Slides page, and it's hard to read what's there. So, but I appreciate that that is useful. Thank you. So, before you go, Eleanor, if you did have a question, that's fine. So I've rattled on here. I think we should wind up, Peter. But you said there was a lot in chat. There was there?
Yeah, I think we've covered those one way or another. Unless anyone's got anything else. So any other questions for Frank? Now, we were going to do a short talk on markup, and I think because of Frank's talk has generated some brilliant discussions, we'll just defer that to another day. So anything else on Frank's Google Docs versus PowerPoint before we sign off?
Just to say thank you very much, Frank. Very good.
Thank you, Frank.
Yes.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I'd agree with that. Thank you very much. All right, guys. So we'll meet again next month, and we'll talk about how to reduce your electricity bill to zero.
So, Peter, I guess if you could stick around for a minute.
Sorry, say that again.
If you could stick around, just.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. So thanks very much. We'll see you next month.
Thank you. Bye.